I read? There are a few authors I really love. It's more about literature. So I read, I think I read every book of a British author. His name is Alan Hollinghurst. So he actually, a few years ago, he wrote Lines of Beauty that actually won Booker Prize in the British. So he's a gay writer. So he wrote a lot of.
I think I've heard of him.
Yeah, a lot of gay experience, but very complex, very interesting. So basically, it's not that straightforward to see this character, his characters, the protagonist. Most time in his novel is gay, but that's very complex. You cannot say he's a good person or bad person, but he has this,
a lot of ambivalence.
Yeah, a lot of ambivalence and a lot of interesting things that he was doing, and it was excellent. I mean, it was very well written, and yeah.
Does he repeat the characters in different books?
No. The different books have different characters. Yeah.
Interesting. Alan Hollinghurst?
Yeah.
I should look into.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of it.
Yeah. After I came out, actually, I read a lot of books from gay authors, like
Edmund White.
Yeah, Edmund White. I actually met him in.
Did you?
Yeah, in a
really?
book signing. He was reading his autobiography there, and I was reading Michael Cunningham.
I don't know.
He wrote Hours. The Hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It was all right. That's great.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
A lot of his books. And a bunch of others. The classics, the gay classics, the gay canon. Like the.
Tales of the City, Armistead Moped.
Well, and I don't remember like the Dancer and the Dance. You know that one? The Dancer and the Dance.
I think I know that one.
And then Front Runner.
Yes, oh sure. I read
yeah.
that.
I was. They were such a big. I feel like a lifeline, right? Because when you want to see, when you came out and you want to find out what other people's experiences are, and you read those books and you feel like, oh wow, that you're not alone, and so they're sharing this experience with you, and it happened to you too, and that just got a lot of feelings. And
it seems like you had a very spiritual experience also. It was intertwined with you coming out. Your identity. Yes, I'd imagine. This is something that's very, very personal, and people talking about their coming out experiences. It's interesting how you were able to find a lot of inspiration, and I guess, would you say like a certain amount of how would you say?
Inspiration or solidarity or validation, I guess, also.
Validation, absolutely, yes.
That, that your longing and your desire and your experience, were not unique, and there are people like you out there, and they have gone through all these different kind of experiences.
I remember coming out and meeting, when I first started actually going out, the first thing I had, I had done my research, did a little homework as well, because I had to make sure, I was not going to go on the wrong foot, because everybody has their experiences when you first start going, and,
right?
You're basically following a desire until to figure out what you were doing, and meeting up with so many of the people who were. That's the first level you meet of the people, the predatory people, when you first meet them, and you knew that they were not representative of the culture at all. They just happened to be there, and you were easy. You were easy pickings, and if you had any knowledge, any awareness at all, you knew that this was something to expect, and that was something that I had. I'm glad some of the things that I learned ahead of time, but I remember going to libraries. And going to the farthest corner I could to look at a book and make sure nobody saw it.
Yeah, right. I can imagine.
Yeah. And especially if you ran into someone you knew, because I was a local and I would go to the library that was nearby, and I didn't want to be recognized or interact with anybody, because if I had a book that I was reading, as I would read the book in the library, I wouldn't take it home. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those things. So I remember that. Yeah, that was particularly poignant.
Yeah, it is, right? It is. I totally understand that.
I'm a big nerd, and I am perpetually stuck in some sort of science fiction. Right now I'm reading this book called Underground Airlines. Takes place in an imaginary United States where we never had the Civil War, and so slavery still exists in 2018.
Okay.
And it's following how all of that would be realized in a world with smartphones and the internet, and how we would see through all that. But who do I read? I mean, I think I focused on that because you introduced me to a book that was very important to me, which was...
That's true.
And it's so cliche.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to feel so dumb the entire time I talk about this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Catcher in the Rye.
Hey, the guy knew something.
Yeah. I'm no Mark David Chapman. I'm not going to lose my mind on this book, but...
Whatever you do, never tell anybody anything.
But it was a book that I think I was in my early 20s, and I was very naive and probably emotionally much younger than, so I was probably at the right place emotionally to read that the first time. I remember bumping around on the city bus trying to get through this book that this old dude at work had told me to read, and I loved the book so much.
I was like, old dude. Oh, me.
Yeah, you. And I waited a couple years because I'd done some research on the book, and they're like, you wait a couple years, you grow up, you read it again, and you see this character Holden Caulfield as the piece of shit, snotty-nosed brat that he is. And it's true, but I still got a real big thrill out of the character, even though I know what he is and where he's going wrong, but it's a character that really resonated with me, and it was the first tattoo I ever got across my chest. Big portrait of Mr. Caulfield, and I know that we're still working on getting your first tattoo.
Yeah, I'm a split personality on that one. So
at this point, you just got to do it.
That's the thing, should I or should I?
So yeah, that's a good book question.
Right now, I am reading the works of Brandon Sanderson, and if you are a fantasy science fiction buff, I would tell you to research all things Cosmere. Brandon writes a couple of books. I discovered him because I was a big fan of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, and unfortunately, Mr. Jordan died because he took too long to write the books, and so Brandon had to come in and write the last few books. Listen, if you guys are Game of Thrones fans, I hope that does not happen to George R. Martin, that he actually gets to finish his series. But because Robert Jordan died before he finished The Wheel of Time, I was able to discover Brandon Sanderson, who came in and finished that series after him. I just finished what was that? I'm reading. He has a couple of chronicles. He has the Mistborn saga. He has the Words of Radiance saga, and also I'm reading his first book, Elantris. So I enjoy that. And in regards to nonfiction, anything that's written by John C. Maxwell, those are pretty good books. Relationships 101, Success 101, How to Think Like Successful People. I would recommend everyone go out and read those books. And even the works of Dr. Stephen Covey, which is The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Okay.
My favorite writer is Stephen King.
Okay.
I love reading horror. I love reading everything that's about him because he's so detailed. His books are big. You know, like a 1,000-page book is like common for him, but it gives you so much information about the characters. You really get to know them. I'm a slow reader, so when I read his books, it takes me like a month to go through one book. And like reading one book a month, being with the characters day by day, you feel like at certain point you feel like you're living their lives, even though it's horror story and like scared to hell at certain points. But since I'm a kid, he's my favorite writer, so I love his books.
It's funny. He used to live in this area. I think he lived in the West Village, but we used to see him while walking around. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're making me jealous now, Tim.
There was one story I have to say. Bruce was there. My brother was there. We were at a Sunday brunch. It's at a place that's long out of business, and it was nice. And one Sunday, we were sitting there having brunch, and they had the sign with the foam core on the tripod, standing outside the place with the menu, and it was white. It was like that white foam core, and it was reflecting the sunlight bouncing off of the sidewalk, and it was reflecting light off of that. And we look, and who's standing there looking at the menu with a smile on his face, and the light's coming up underneath him, giving this unearthly glow. God. But Stephen King, and we go,
I think I would like scream like a little schoolgirl, run to Barnes and Nobles, get one of his books, and like run back, hope he's still there, like just to get like a signed autographed book of his, because I got quite a collection of his books.
We used to see him quite frequently, actually, but that was the one where you go, oh, ouch.
Yeah, I know. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it was terrific.